17 million beneficiaries will materialise. The government entity takes over from Cash Paymaster Services, CPS, whose contract ended September month end. And for an update on that process, we're joined by Ms. Lindiwe Kwele. She's the Chief Operations Officer at Sapo and the person responsible for this switchover. Thank you so much for coming through.
It's a pleasure and good morning.
You have been working on the process incrementally until yesterday, which was the complete switchover. How has that been?
It's been a very challenging but exciting opportunity for the post office, considering where we are at from our liquidity perspective. Just to indicate, Ezra, when we started in December, we signed off a master services agreement that was only limiting us to deal with the electronic payment. And as early as beginning of May, that changed altogether because we were supposed to do both electronic payment as well as the cash payment component, which is a very complex process. But where we are sitting, I think we've had enough time to really improve our infrastructure, to also do stress testing in terms of our system. I think we all witnessed the glitches in July. And we were happy because at that time, we were only paying 700,000 beneficiaries. And then in August, the number went up to 2.5. In September, we paid 5.4 million beneficiaries. 100% cash in 4 provinces and only 60% in 5 provinces. So in terms of testing and piloting our capabilities, even from a cash payment perspective, we're quite comfortable, and that successfully went through in September.
I know this is unrelated, but you mentioned it in your response. You say considering our liquidity, and this is something the Auditor General, Mr. Kimimakwetu, highlighted about 2 days ago. What do you mean?
Desiree, you will appreciate that Post Office does a commercial as well as public service mandate. And in terms of the public service mandate, we expect to be funded for that service, for that mandate. And I think as far as 2002 or 2012, we stopped getting that grant in relation to the public service mandate. So if you look at just that alone, that could actually put us on a break-even point. And I think this year, in terms of our MTEF submission, National Treasury is actually looking at that particular issue, because in the past we were then subsidizing the public service mandate, which is something that needs to be taken care of through the national fiscus.
Will this new operation handling the disbursement of grants make a difference?
Absolutely, a huge difference. We actually see this as a catalyst for our sustainability. Right now, in terms of the branch infrastructure, we've never even invested anything in the past 10 years. We've been really operating like
I must say, as a user, there were times when you would walk into the post office and feel like the operation's just about to fall flat. No,
I actually identify with that. So this opportunity has really enabled us to invest hugely in the retail infrastructure. We've spent more than 1.9 billion investment in that infrastructure. But more importantly, Desiree, it really is about enabling government and building own capacity, because what we've learned from the CPS SASA relationship is that we really have created dependency to the private sector. There's nothing wrong with public-private partnership, but the work that is supposed to be driven by the state has to be controlled, owned, and directed by the state, as opposed to be completely dependent onto the private sector. And we really believe that this opportunity will enable us to build our own capacity, because this is a social basket, a social package, and it really needs to be driven by government at a very cost-effective way, if I may say.
What are the outstanding issues? There are people who have complained of the processes, and sometimes they're not able to make the deadlines.
Let me just clarify. This is a hybrid model. The commercial banks, they are also, people can choose to actually have a private card, but they need to also understand that with that comes charges, like your normal banking card. And then the new gold SASA Sapo card that is the only one that gives freebies to the beneficiaries because it's been subsidized by the state.
Government.
Yes. So when you want your free withdrawal, your PIN reset, your statement inquiries over the counter as well as across merchants, you do that for free as a beneficiary. But if you go to an ATM, obviously the switch costs, they are applicable in that regard. You also ask about the outstanding issues. As you know, that the post office, the way they were constructed, they were never geared for this type of volumes, So one has to also deal with the dignity service. And some of the post offices are in the malls. So you have to actually ensure that there are chairs, there are ablution facilities and the likes.
So one of the biggest gripes with CPS was the additional services they were supposedly offering, which led to unlawful deductions from their accounts. Is the post office contemplating taking advantage of this market? I'm glad you're asking this question, because that is one thing that is unique about our card. We don't allow any deduction, because what if you look at how I think I've seen SABC doing a lot of exposés around that. There were a lot of documentaries to that effect, where people will go home without anything. And they didn't even know where their deductions were coming from. And that is why, as a state-led initiative, we're saying we're not going to be allowing any deductions. So when we get a payment file, we pay DESRI what's due to DESRI, so nobody else will do cross-selling, upselling. We have to wrap up the conversation. Some of the lessons learned in this process. For us, it's really, it's about stepping up our games. It's about and appreciating that you can dot the I's, cross the T's, and with technology, anything can happen. So you must always be ahead of, on top of your game all the time. We hope to have you back at some other stage. We're having a busy news day today, so we have to cross over to other events. But Ms. Lindiwe Kwele, thank you so much for coming through. She is the Chief Executive, Chief Operations Officer at the South African Post Office.